Welcome to Module 11, Project Management. In this module, you will learn about managing new projects, performing gap analyses, and different project management tools. Note that there will be a quiz at the end of this module. You must score at least an 80% to pass, and the quiz can be retaken as many times as needed. As Rook continues to grow, it is imperative that we manage projects effectively. Project managers assigned to each project enable us to do just that. So with that, let's start with an overview of project management. Project management is the process to achieve specific project objectives according to the project's acceptance criteria within agreed upon parameters. This process may involve different methods, skills, and experiences needed to ultimately get to project closure. Project closure is dependent upon the completion of the project's goal or final deliverables that are oftentimes constrained by the client's timeline targets and budget. Project managers help us to ensure that a project is completed in a timely manner per the client's schedule and with the hours and budget the client requests. There are times when these items may have to be amended, but an attempt to stay within the agreed upon parameters should be made. If this cannot be done, it is the project manager's responsibility to communicate this to the client and to determine next steps. When clients sign off on the SOW, or Statement of Work, the next step is to hold a kickoff meeting. These initial meetings are often set up by the Rook management team after a team has been identified that fits the skills necessary to complete the project, or the project fits the necessary developmental opportunities. The kickoff meeting should be held with the client, the project team, and the project manager. Before the initial kickoff meeting, the project manager as well as the team members should look into the company to have some background knowledge. In the initial meeting with the client, the first thing that will be done before jumping into the presentation is introductions. Researching the company beforehand can allow for you to introduce yourself and your experience in a way tailored to what the client will need going through the project. A new client kickoff presentation should be prepared for the initial meetings. In this meeting, the team and the client should discuss the overall goal of the project, whether it is just establishing a QMS, preparing a DHF or technical file, submitting a 510K, etc. In this meeting, the client should also notify Rook of any important timelines that are nice to have versus absolutely needed. The client and the project team should also discuss how information will be shared and discuss Rook's access to certain document repositories, such as an eQMS system like Bringlight or Google Drive. The client should also provide any background on the project or product that may be helpful. In order to identify what will be needed to get to the end of a project, it is important for the project manager to understand what the current state of documents are versus the desired state. One way to do this is to perform a gap analysis. With a gap analysis, the project manager will help scope what requirements need to be met. They will then delegate team members to help analyze sections of requirements to identify gaps. Once all gaps are identified, the project manager can put together a Gantt chart that lists the important tasks needed to get to the project's end goal within the specified time frame. At the next meeting, the project manager can communicate the Gantt chart and necessary steps to the client. It is important to also communicate to the client where their input is needed most. If the client is working towards a regulatory submission, the checklist in Module 9 can also be utilized to help create the Gantt chart and also shared with the client so they are aware. During the scheduled meetings with the clients, it is important that the project manager identifies a team member to take meeting minutes. These minutes should be detailed and clearly identify action items on both Rook's and the client's behalf. At the beginning of each meeting, the project manager should start with the project status update and then follow up on any open action items. From there, identify any potential risks, reassignments, readjustments, etc. needed as applicable. After action items have been covered, the team should then proceed to answer any questions that the client may have and also communicate to the client any questions that the project team may have as they go through each of their assigned deliverables. Prior to the end of each meeting, ensure that every team member on both sides has had the opportunity to speak. If the meeting ends prior to all of the questions being answered, suggest setting up additional time, extending the next meeting, or emailing questions in between until the next meeting. Before the meeting closes, ensure that both teams are aware of all actions assigned to them and their due dates. Rook uses Instagant and Asana for project management. The project manager should put tasks within these platforms and assign them out to team members with due dates. Reference the guidance for managing tasks and projects in Asana in this module for additional details. To monitor progress of these tasks, the project manager should set up brief touchpoint meetings with the Rook team in order to get status updates, identify if any additional resources are needed, and/or if there are any risks to the project. The team members should have a clear understanding of what is needed from them by the next meeting with the client. This is also a great opportunity for the project manager to help identify any training or developmental opportunities needed for the Rook team members. One of the most important things for the project manager to do at the touchpoint meetings is to know how many hours of the statement of work have been used. That way they can effectively track and plan for the month. The manager should ask all team members to report their hours and make adjustments accordingly. If the project manager determines that more hours are needed, the project manager should have a conversation with the client to see if this can be done. If not, the project manager should communicate with them any adjustments that may be needed to the schedule. Another important thing for the touch points is to identify what deliverables are blocked. Blocked deliverables may be waiting on the client's input or a team member to finish a prerequisite deliverable. The project manager should try to relieve all blockages and communicate what these blockages are holding up to both the client and the project team. The project manager should always provide deliverables to the client and request their feedback for records created. Ultimately, the client knows their products the best, so it is important that they verify any product-related documents. When projects involve Rook creating QMS procedures, the project manager must ensure that these are reviewed as well by the client, as well as sufficient training is held as necessary to ensure that the client understands the overall function of a QMS. Rook has a template for an overall QMS training and an associated quiz that can be used to help test the client's knowledge after the training. At times, the client may request more procedure-specific training, and it is up to the project manager to facilitate that training in a manner that is best received by the client. When the project's end goal has been met, the project can be prepared for closure. The project manager should recap on all the work the team has accomplished and obstacles overcome. The project manager should confirm if there is anything else that the Rook team can help with and offer additional services as applicable. Be sure to keep the line of communication open with the client and let them know that to reach out if we can help in any way. Additionally, the project manager should pass on any learnings from the project to the rest of the Rook team. You have reached the end of Module 11. Remember to take the Module 11 quiz. You must score at least an 80% to pass, and the quiz can be retaken as many times as needed.